When you first start your firm, you're always thinking about money. How are you going to pay yourself? How are you going to pay employees? How are you going to grow a company? And if you're in the tech space, you've probably heard terms around, venture capital, VC, Series A. That's pretty common in that world. And when you're building your company, that's what you're told you need to do. Well, today's guest, Mason Hale of SwimTopia, is going to talk to us about how he got kind of pushed in that direction and how he found ways to build the company authentically the way he wanted to in a very organic way without having to go the traditional pitch and fundraising route. SwimTopia, his company, started out as a volunteer situation. He came home from a business trip. His wife said, "Hey, guess what? You're managing the swim team for our daughter." He found a problem, solved it for himself, and now he solves it for thousands of swim teams all over the world. What's cool about his story is not only was he able to acquire another company without going the traditional route of raising funding, but he's also been on the other side of the coin of being acquired, and he can talk about how that was different too. So tune in today if you've ever felt that the only way that you could grow your company is by going through what's called other people's money, and maybe there might be another door you can walk through. Dive right in. He's going to tell us all about it. This episode is sponsored by Steel Toe Communications, and this episode is also sponsored by Illuminate. Well, welcome to the breakout moment. I am so excited to have you here, and you have had a long, winding road trip to get here from Texas. So,
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about SwimTopia and entertain us about this road trip you're on right now?
Sure. So I'm Mason Hale. I founded SwimTopia in 2011. And we're on a road trip right now from Austin, Texas, that we actually went up to Canada to pick up a travel trailer. And we've been winding our way back down through the East Coast. We had a stop in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And then now we're in Delaware.
All right.
And now in Maryland.
Maryland. Yep. Delaware, Maryland. Where to next?
So Virginia,
Okay.
A few stops in Virginia, and then down through North Carolina, into Georgia, down to the coast in Alabama, through Louisiana, and then back home.
Okay, so you're just running your way south all the way. So
Yeah.
you're acclimating to the temperature all the way back
Pretty
home.
much. We'll get used to the heat by the time we get home, just in time for August. And we're
wow.
visiting swim teams and swim meets along the way. Another little fun fact, we brought about 250 T-shirts and a T-shirt cannon. So we're looking forward to We're going to go shoot some T-shirts at a pep rally this Friday.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun.
So
Okay, it feels almost like a baseball thing, or like a sports event where when you're shooting the T-shirts out.
Yeah.
So
It's definitely something I love about swimming, especially like the summer rec swimming market, where it's a very community-driven thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of a thing that is the community builds itself around, and just love to get into that vibe.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. So you didn't start with SwimTopia.
No. So I started with a problem. I was working at a consulting company at the time, traveling about 50% of the time, most of it international.
Oof.
And while I was gone on a business trip, I got home and my wife said, "Hey, honey, I've got good news, bad news. Good news, the kids are signed up for the swim team. Bad news, I volunteered you to run the computers for the team." And I was like, "What does that mean?" And so then she gave me the number of the current computer person on the team, and I went to her house, and she could not hand me this old dilapidated team laptop fast enough. So the way that swim teams run is surprisingly archaic. So that software predated Windows, started as a DOS program.
Oh my gosh.
It's what almost every swim team runs on or used to run on. And it just wasn't going to work with my travel schedule and things like that. So I quickly put up a site where the parents could tell me if they're going to be at the meet and what events their kids wanted to swim. And by the way, our team had 250 kids. So it was a lot to keep track of.
Oh my, that's a lot. No wonder she wanted to chuck this thing at
Right.
you as fast as humanly possible. That's always a sign. You notice when you get voluntold for something and
Absolutely.
you're doing the handoff, whether it's like a board or a volunteer organization or whatnot, and you can always tell, you're like, oh, what did I get myself into here?
Yeah, and the cost of making a mistake was really high because, there's only so many lanes in a swimming pool.
Right.
And so if I forgot to enter someone in the event, there might not be a lane for them. And so that, you have a little girl that shows up and wants to swim the breaststroke. And if she's not in, you've got a crying kid and angry parents. And nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants
So
that.
So I really had a problem, and I was able to fix it for myself. And then by the summer of 2010, by that time I was the computer chair for the whole swim league, and we're in Austin, Texas. We're at the University of Texas Natatorium, and I get surrounded by the other teams in the league asking how much it would cost to use this thing that they knew that I had. And it was at that point I was like, I guess I might have to start a business now.
I might have something
Yeah,
on my hands.
the
That's
genesis of it. Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of people talk about that type of like genesis of a idea, and it's so funny. So many entrepreneurs I feel hunt for that idea, but in your case,
It found me.
it found you, and I think that's the case more often than not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's this great book I read called The E-Myth Revisited, and it's about that kind of thing. That the myth of an entrepreneur is that they seek out a business,
Correct.
and most of the time they are really chasing a dream, pursuing a passion, and they need to figure out how to make that into a business. And so I
Yes.
think that's a lot more common. But that was definitely my story as well.
Yeah. No, it's similar to me in a different way. It wasn't, the problem was more personal. It was career driven, as in, I'm stuck, I'm in this place, I'm not able to get where I want to go. You know, I had a lifestyle choice, which was I don't want to spend 25 hours a week commuting to my 40-hour-a-week job. That math didn't math
Yeah.
outright. It did make sense at first. You're thinking, oh, this is a great salary. And then you put all the commuting and the time and, you know, the personal costs in, and you're like, this is terrible.
Right.
And between that and economics, I didn't start out with this idea of I'm going to build a company. I started out with, well, if the world isn't giving me what I need, I'm just going to go build what I need for myself. Next thing you know,
Absolutely. Yep.
you've got a company on your hands. So what was that like moment where you're like, oh, this is real. I could do something, like you
Yeah.
got serious. Because I don't know about you, but for me, it was like a whole bunch of like chatter in the back of my brain for a really long time before it got loud enough that I acted on it.
Right. So by the time I was at the pool deck and the people and the other teams were around me, well, they were actually offering me money. So they're saying, you know, if we paid you
Take my money.
$600, you know, would you do it? And so that was an interesting thing that got me thinking. By that point, I'd left a consulting company and I was a CTO at a startup that we'd raised Series A round and gone that path. But
Which is a very different path.
Right, and that was around the 2008 financial crisis. We were running out of money by 2010, and so there was just the timing of that. Like I needed to find something else, and then this thing came along. And in Austin, there was a new startup incubator program called Capital Factory that had just started. So it took me several months, but it was actually February 2011 when I like sort of officially started the company, and then I got accepted to the accelerator program. So things started falling into place.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I know a lot of accelerator programs focus on tech, bio and tech.
Yep.
The rest of us kind of don't usually get into programs like that. What is that experience like for you? You know, what were some of the things that helped kind of propel you forward being part of almost like an incubator startup environment? Having been already been part of a startup, so you already kind of knew what that looked like just from a different perspective.
Right. I think in that program there were 20 mentors that were in that initial. They have more now, but it was the expectation was that I would spend time with every mentor and talk to them. So I got to see how they perceived my business and where we were and where we should go from a bunch of different perspectives and from people that had done that path in different ways. One challenge is I got a lot of different and conflicting advice. And so being able to sort through that was hard, but it was good to just see the range of those things. There were also classes that we would go through. So like how to pitch your business. We did a lot of pitch practice, how to read term sheets, how to understand all the terms that are involved. That was very, very useful. And then just creating a peer group. So we were going through as a cohort of other people that were also running businesses. And so being able to work with them, it's really hard to start a company in any whether tech or not. And so just having a group that understands that, because most people have no idea, was really useful. And to this day is extremely useful to have that network.
Is there anything that was part of that experience that you felt, like something that got skipped over? Like now looking back, because obviously you're further down the road now, you've graduated out, and
Right.
Is there anything that you feel like would have been nice to have?
Well, one of the pieces of conflicting advice I got was whether or not to try to go raise a Series A. So in the tech world, there's this traditional path of like you'll get a Series A and deal with VCs. And that was most of the advice that I got, was to follow that path. But I had some people that were saying, you don't need to go that path. But then that whole program ended on this demo day where you're going to go pitch to a room full of investors. So you're sort of forced to really pursue that. But I think longer term, after pitching lots of VCs, I learned that the swim market is just considered too small. And so it pushed us prematurely, I think, to try to expand to other sports. And so it took a long time, more than a decade, to really realize like that's not the right path for us, and to get off that train. And that felt like the more uncommon way to do things, or the more unorthodox way to do things. But it took a while to figure that out. So I would say being dropped in with the assumption that you're going to do Series A, Series B, and that's the right fit for everyone. I think if I was to roll it back, I would question that. And if I was to give people advice, I would ask them to like really question that. And fortunately for entrepreneurs now, there are a lot more options than there were. There's a lot more crowdfunding and things like that are available. Plus, just especially with like AI tools and things like that.
You can fail very fast.
Yeah.
Very fast.
The cost to get something off the ground or to a prototype.
It's significantly dropped.
Yeah, at least a factor of 10, if not 100. So that world is different. So it also changes the dynamics. Like you don't need as much money or as early as you used to. So I think that does and you have more options if you do need to go raise money. And I think that puts a little more power in the hands of the entrepreneur versus they're feeling like this is the only thing they can do, and therefore they're beholden to the VCs.
And I think that's interesting because the outside of the tech world perspective, even though we're kind of tech adjacent with what we do here at Illuminate, is I was allergic to the idea coming away from a job where I had bosses. I was allergic to the idea of having bosses again.
Right. Yep.
So when you're talking about like funding, because when you're starting, you got to have money coming from somewhere. I was allergic to raising money, whether the family and friends round or any round.
Right.
It was just a personal choice. And when I went through a similar program with Goldman Sachs, part of that program, they put you are pitching to Goldman Sachs, and they were a bank.
Yes.
And I didn't need funding. That wasn't the goal. That wasn't why I was there. And the same kind of thing where I kind of like felt pushed in that direction, where that was one of those things where it's just like, what I'm looking to do doesn't require, I mean, yes, it would be nice. Who doesn't want a blank check of some kind or zeros on it, right?
Right.
To implement an idea. But at the same time, it's more valuable to me to be more creative and go at this in a different way so that I don't take on that debt or leverage debt in that way right now. And I think maybe that's something that we both have experienced, is just there's lots of creative ways to put together a deal.
Right.
Right?
Yes,
so, I think there's this myth. You're raising money, you're doing the friends and family round, you've got to, bootstrapping it or doing things in a unconventional way. We don't really talk about all those other different creative vehicles. And I know you've run into some of them too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fundraising route also sort of masks success. People will celebrate raising big rounds, and that's not really success. No. And so it can actually put you on the wrong track. There's a lot more options out there. I'd say the big lesson I've learned is that if you assume that you need a lot of money to go do things, sometimes you can find another way to achieve the same objective without cash or with other. You have a lot more at your disposal as an entrepreneur than you maybe see it first.
Mm-hmm.
And for my case in particular, in 2017, so I'm like 6 years in.
Mm-hmm.
I should mention, so as part of the startup incubator, the other advice I got was that I had to find a co-founder. So I was going through as a solo founder. Multiple people told me I was absolutely crazy for doing that trying to do this alone was.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And so I found a co-founder. There's a whole story there that I won't get into, but it should have been perfect, but it wasn't. And so we did raise a small angel round. That demo day that I mentioned, we actually won the Audience Choice Award. I have a nice plaque from that. But a little more than a year later, the co-founder relationship wasn't working, and we'd burned through most of the money that we'd raised. We only had 3 months to go, and I was faced with like, what do I do now? And at this point, we had customers. They loved what we were doing. We weren't making that much money. We didn't have employees at that point. We had some contractors, but I had to like pull the plug on that. And I stretched that 3 months of runway for 6 years up to 2017. So I basically got back into side project mode. I was doing other jobs, doing consulting gigs, not paying myself with SwimTopia.
Man, that sounds familiar to me. Yep.
Yep. And those are the things that no one understands. But by 2017, I did have a full-time employee and 3 part-time employees, but I still wasn't on the payroll. And I went to Atlanta, and there was another competing software out there that was ad-based. So it was a free product that was completely ad-supported, but was very popular in the Southeast. And I talked to the founder of that early on when I was just starting to see like maybe we could work together. He wasn't really interested. But by March of 2017, I'd grown enough to where he had just passed him in terms of number of customers. He was at the same league meeting that I was at, and so we went and grabbed a beer afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that his kids had graduated and weren't doing swimming anymore, and he was looking for a way to hand off his customers in some way. And at this point, I'm not even paying myself a salary, so I don't have money to go buy a company. And so my first reaction was, yeah, cool story, but what am I going to do?
Yeah, I'm not nothing I can do with this.
But I kept thinking about it, like, is there something we could do? So we were able to work out a structure where he vested stock options in my company based on the number of customers of his that converted to paying customers of mine. And that solved another risk for me, which I wasn't sure, because we charged for our product and he didn't. So there was a risk of how many people would switch from a free product to a paid product, and we didn't know. So that way, that structure, we shared that risk together, and it also motivated him to sort of be a salesperson for me to encourage his existing customers to move over. And that, almost doubled our customer base overnight.
Wow.
And also, he also had a product. Both of our products mostly managed the swim team, so it would do the registration to join the team and the entries for the meet and picking relays, things like that. He also had a very, very bare bones product that would actually run the swim meet on the pool deck, that would keep track of the times and do the awards and ribbons, which I didn't have. And there was another piece of software that was really dominant in doing that. And I knew that eventually we would need to take that on, but he had about 200 customers that were using his product. And so this would give us a way to start with 200 customers instead of 0 for that. So it's sort of a boost in 2 ways. It helped us accelerate launching a new product and also increasing the customer base. And I got to start paying myself a reasonable salary.
I remember when I started to do that. Like that, you're right. That's only something a founder understands.
Right.
For me, I didn't pay myself for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
Had employees, whole thing,
Yeah.
but I was not paying myself yet, and it was just part of what it needed to do to get things up and going and self-sustaining. And then when I did start paying myself, it was like, really?
Right.
But it does pay off later. So, that's a creative deal structure. And to your point, that's not what, again, that's not what we're exposed to. It turns into a moment where, not only did you expand your offerings, but you expand it with a ready to go customer base.
Right.
With no cash on the table.
Right. And it worked out beautifully.
And
So,
a shared risk.
right.
That's
We did convert 90% or more of his customers over, so that worked out. And that we ended up having to build a whole new meat product from scratch. There's some legal reasons for that, but that has been like our best product and has led to a lot more sales and growth for us.
That's
now.
amazing.
Yeah.
So that, that was then. Fast forward to now.
Yeah, I mean, now we have 16 employees.
Wow.
And I'm paying myself a reasonable, more than
A living salary.
Right. And we have customers all over the country. Actually, we have customers in 20 countries.
That's
We have
amazing.
customers all over the country. I love to go visit them, have a full engineering team, things like that. And then actually a little over a year ago, we were acquired. So that gave me another perspective on that. But we were acquired by another company, Campminder. That's the largest software to run summer camps. And that's enabled like a whole another level. They have specialists in all kinds of things that we aren't big enough to, but like cybersecurity and marketing and things like that we're able to leverage. And that's been a great fit because it's been a good cultural fit. Like their mission around creating great experiences for kids aligns with
what you're doing. What you started, basically what you started with. This is a
Yeah.
crappy experience. Let me make it better.
Right.
That's amazing. So being somebody who not only has acquired a company, but has been acquired,
Right.
what did you learn through that process? You've been on both sides of the table now.
Right. That's a good question. So, I'd say from the first acquisition, it was just to challenge your assumptions. Like I would have assumed that wasn't even possible for me to do the acquisition that we did at that point in time. And that wasn't the only time, but there have been multiple times where you get into this sort of existential threat. You have to figure out a way to get through as an entrepreneur, and you find a solution. You see a door that you can open that solves things. The thing that you realize in hindsight is that door was there the whole time. And so I try to put
It's like right in front of your face and you can't see it. Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to have to go through an existential threat to find those. So trying to put myself in that creative mindset of what else am I missing? What else, what other opportunities are there? What other doors could I find is a challenge, but I try to do that a lot more because there is more out there than you would assume. And from the acquisition standpoint, I didn't seek to be acquired. I was actually still on that VC path and looking to go raise a Series A was really what I was trying to do. And after being turned down a lot,
for the niche, I bet.
Right, for the niche. And it was working with Campminder. They're saying, you're just talking to the wrong people. They really felt that trying to broaden out and focus on soccer teams and volleyball teams and things like that was just premature and a distraction.
Yeah.
And instead that we should just be really, really good at the thing that we're really good at. And it felt good to it was validating because that's what I really felt was true. And that they saw that too, just kind of, aligned. And so that's when it clicked. And it took a while for me to come around to that because I wasn't looking to be acquired. But when I talked to my team, I let them know, without saying who, we actually had gotten multiple offers to be acquired. And I said we would never just be acquired for the money. It would have to be something that would be a thing that was better for our employees, our customers, all the way around. And that this one fit those bills.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think that's another, along the lines of challenge your assumptions. The assumption is always broader, right? In marketing, we talk about positioning. And we talk about horizontal versus vertical positioning. So vertical being very niche focus. You're going really narrow, but you're going very deep. It's what you've done. And horizontally focused is much harder to pull off well because you're more of a generalist. And it is real, to your point, be very good at what you do. And I find too often, and honestly, I find this a lot in software. A tool was built for a reason, and then they add a whole bunch of extra junk in,
Yep.
if they don't do very well at all, or they acquire and it doesn't mesh well into a good customer experience, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And I think we're pushed as entrepreneurs and owners too much to constantly be broadening out the offer instead of just dive deeper into what you do really, really well and continue to deliver that really, really well and solve for that customer. You don't, your swim teams, you don't need to be soccer teams.
Right.
They're two very different things, even though a VC or someone on the outside might see, oh, it's the same thing, just different sport. It's not.
Right.
It's not. The logistics are completely different.
And I'll say it's more gratifying to know that you're really, really good at a thing versus pretty good at a bunch of things.
Yeah. I'd rather be really good at something than pretty good at a bunch of junk.
But that whole path for me was another assumption that I had made. That was just sort of the orthodox way that a software company was supposed to run. You're supposed to raise a VC, Series A, Series B, and that's how it goes. And I had just bought into that as the default, and then it took me a while to understand that wasn't necessarily our path. And that was a huge weight off my shoulders once I realized, like, instead of fighting that, just to fighting to try and force it through to become a thing that we weren't, so that we could appease what the VCs wanted, to instead be who we were and then find a different path that valued that. And that's ultimately where we landed.
Well, and I think something wise that you've done is you solve for the customer. And I think too often people that get caught up in funding and rounds, to your other point, it is a false positive, a false success narrative. People will hear me also say that if you're telling me how successful you are by your head count, you're just telling me how much overhead you have.
Right. Absolutely.
That's not the measure. But I think, to your point, as we're looking forward and the rounds and whatnot, there's just, again, so many different ways that you can look at that. And especially now you're more enabled to do so, but focus on your customer. Your VC is not your customer.
Right.
You're told, though, they are. And you lose focus on solving for, I think, what you originally set out to do, which is the thing that I think most of us get excited about.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very hard starting a company, and there were lots of ups and downs, the co-founder breakup, not paying myself for years. The thing that kept me going was our customers really liked what we were doing.
Yeah.
And, being able to go talk to someone and them tear up because the amount that we gave them their life back, that they were able to spend time with their kids instead of staying up all night doing lineups for swim meets, that was just huge for me. And it was not an experience that I had before. And that's just very, very rewarding to have that opportunity. And so I love, to pull it back around, to be able to do this road trip and go meet people in person and hear those stories. I love hearing how people are using and enjoying the software that we build, but I also like hearing the things that we could do better, and that's how we learn to get better. But it's great. It's also great for my wife to get to join me on this trip, because she gets to see, she's seen me on the other side just working really hard for a long time, but to be in these lunches and happy hours and stuff that we're hosting and getting to talk to everyone's been great.
Yeah, I wonder. Do you ever ask her, to be like, so, you want to volunteer me for anything else?
I think she's not going to. She's heard me tell that story many times. And then she'll tell the story now, too. But that, she has been my biggest supporter for sure. So there was, I mentioned the T-shirt cannon that we have. That actually comes from early on when I just had the name SwimTopia. I had this dream that we were driving around in a tour bus and pulled up to a swim meet, and all the kids were saying, SwimTopia is here, SwimTopia is here. And that was when I just had the first name. And it just happened that was right after we had wrapped up another road trip, and she had told me that she was kind of ready to be done with that. So it was some trepidation that I told her about that dream. And to her credit, she was like, yeah, and we could wrap it in and logos and mount a t-shirt cannon to the top, right?
Right.
And so she was
The
very
SwimTopia tour bus.
Absolutely. And so then that was very, very early on when I was going through ups and downs. Occasionally she would email me the link to the t-shirt cannon webpage where you could buy the t-shirt cannon and say, is it time to order this? And that would be like when I was low, maybe ready to throw in the towel. That was her sign to me to keep going.
That's amazing. The people, the partners we pick in our lives, that they make or break.
Yeah.
Especially for an entrepreneur, our families, our partners, our spouses, they are our strongest supporters and behind the scenes and put up with our flavor of crazy.
Absolutely.
And so kudos to her. So for
Yes.
encouraging you and for volunteering you.
Right.
She was probably like, wow, I didn't know my whole life was going to change. So
Yeah.
I think that's amazing for you guys.
Yeah. So it's great now to actually have the t-shirt cannon. It's like come full circle.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for being on today and sharing the story. And I really do think it's a worthwhile takeaway, especially for anybody in tech, but just entrepreneurs in general, that there's always a creative way to approach, expanding your company, and it doesn't always, or growing your company the way you want to grow it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always mean the traditional route.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks.
This episode is sponsored by Steel Toe Communications. Steel Toe Communications builds marketing from the field up, using real projects, real crews, and real results. They help construction owners attract the right people, tighten up their messaging, and build long-term trust with marketing that reflects how their company actually operates, not something pulled from a template. And this episode is also sponsored by Illuminate. Illuminate empowers businesses with AI-driven marketing, revenue operations, and CRM implementation and training to drive sales growth and strengthen customer engagement. If your business is navigating the messy middle and you're ready to grow with purpose, with a partner that understands B2B business marketing and operations, visit illuminate.com to connect.